Woohoo, we're ready to start. So welcome everybody to the Noble Manhattan USA East Coast Coaching Support Group. My name is Beatrice Phillips and I'm the team lead here of our group. And real quick, before we get started, we have a page on Facebook where you can join us. We also have a page on LinkedIn. And the purpose of our group, let me see if I can advance these slides, is first to welcome all the coaches and students of coaching, as well as all the people that are curious about what it is that we do and what we talk about in these meetings. And so everyone is welcome. The focus of our group, and we meet once a month, is to help people develop in their personally, as well as help develop motivation. And we do it in a coaching way. So we are an arm of Noble Manhattan here in the USA. And like I said, we meet once a month and we have kind of fun meetings. We're going to be going into breakout rooms after the presentation where we do some coaching or some mastermind, depending on the type of presentation that we had. There we have fun, we exchange, discuss information. Everything is confidential. So whatever you bring stays with us. We're only recording the actual presentation. We never record in the breakout rooms. And so we welcome you to join us on a monthly basis. You will be getting a newsletter from us. And we also in the newsletter have a link with a where you can put in a $20 donation, which makes you an official member with our group for 1 year. And so I just again want to welcome our newest member, Hillary Walmsley, who joined us. So thank you so much, Hillary. And then moving on, this group is run by 5 coaches, me, Petra, Maria, Michael, and Emily. So if you have any questions about coaching, coach training, or anything else, find us on our Facebook group, private chat us, find us on LinkedIn, reach out to us. And we also have ambassadors Susan Chester and Glenn Phillips that are also on the call. And so just to let you know, the way the evening proceeds, we have introductions, then we do a presentation, we have a follow-on question and answer session. So you will be muted during the presentation. You can always drop stuff into the chat if you like. And then after the presentation is over in the Q&A, you will immediately be put into a breakout room. So it actually takes a couple of seconds. So don't leave. I mean, go have a glass of water or powder your nose, but come back, join us in the breakout group because that's where the magic happens. All right, so Maria, I'm handing this over to you.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to introduce Emily today as our speaker. So Emily is studying to become a life and executive coach with Noble Manhattan. She's also an entrepreneur and has worked in the wine industry for the past 7 years now. She started her coaching journey in 2019 and is currently working towards her certification and accreditation. Emily has always enjoyed being of service and helping other people succeed in other many facets of life. In the past, she has been the go person to her friends for advice, but after studying life coaching, Emily realized that she preferred empowering other people than just giving advice. Emily is also a published poet, a certified scuba diver, and a dog mom to 2 adorable pups. And as part of her curiosity, she also loves traveling, meeting new people, and learning new languages. So with that said, I pass it on to Emily.
Emily, you're on mute.
There we go. Sounds on. So I'm really excited to be talking to everybody today about limiting beliefs. I struggled with limiting beliefs for a really long time, and I'm just glad that I'm, moving past them and that I can hopefully help you also gain some tools so that you can do the same. So if you haven't already, maybe grab some paper and a pen. So you can take some notes if you want to, or take notes on your phone. Okay, let's go back to the basics. and talk about what is a belief. So a belief is a thought that we have thought time and time again, so much that it has become ingrained in the way that we see ourselves and the way that we believe other people see us. And how are beliefs formed? Our beliefs are typically formed when we're children by our environment, inferences, or by accepting what other people tell us to be true. And what is a limiting belief? A limiting belief is something we believe to be true about ourselves that keeps us from full expression, growth, transformation, or taking action on the things that really matter to us. And then I just was going to share my screen for a second. I just wanted to share this quote that it hit me hard. It's not what you say out of your mouth that determines your life. It's what you whisper to yourself that has the most power. And so, oops. Okay. It's really important to pay attention to the way that you talk to yourself, your self-talk. Are you kind to yourself? Do you say negative things to yourself often? What are you saying to yourself about yourself? Negative self-talk is one thing that can really perpetuate your limiting beliefs throughout your life. So it's really important to notice the way that you talk to yourself and not to dwell on those negative thoughts. Ideally, after noticing a negative thought, you'll stop and just notice it. At first you can kind of just say, well, that's not true. And then, turn and then maybe say something positive about yourself. That's not really true. Actually, this is true. Like say you forgot something on the way somewhere, might say something to yourself like, I'm such an idiot. But that's not really true. And that, then you're like, okay, well, that's not really true about who I am. So, I'm actually, I'll just work hard next time. I'll try not to forget it, but just try to be a little kinder to yourself in those moments, but just start with just noticing the way that you talk to yourself. So yeah, just try not to berate yourself when you make a mistake. Everybody makes mistakes. You're not the only person who's ever made a mistake, and they're such a huge part of life. We learn so much from our mistakes. They help us grow, and we just learn so much from them. So don't get too down on yourself when mistakes happen. Okay, so now I'm going to ask you about a limiting belief that you have about yourself. Maybe the first one that comes to mind, the biggest one that you have, or something that's really, really held you back. Limiting beliefs keep us playing small. They stop us from fully expressing ourselves and going after what we want, especially if that requires a lot of work and a big leap of faith. So just think about what your limiting belief is that holds you back the most. My biggest limiting belief about myself was that I'm not smart enough. And that stemmed into every aspect of my life. I could attribute it to anything that was hard for me or wasn't going my way. I could say I'm not smart enough for that job, so I'm not going to bother applying. I'm not smart enough for that boyfriend to want to propose to me, so I'll just break up with him. I'm not smart enough to graduate from college, and just on and on and on. So now try to pinpoint where the limiting belief started from. Whatever limiting belief you wrote down, think about when it started and all the ways that you let it hold you back. If you want to take a minute and write some of that down, feel free. I'm going to continue. So for me, my limiting belief came from 3rd grade. I was diagnosed with dyslexia. My teacher started treating me differently, putting me in different classes, separate from my friends. And that's when I first started to think that I wasn't smart. And then over time, just anything that got tough for me just became, I'm not smart enough. And I continued through all of my schooling. And then even though there were some times where I knew that this limiting belief wasn't really true, I still had trouble pushing past it when things got tough because of the benefits that I was getting from it. So sometimes our limiting beliefs can serve a purpose. They protect us from feelings that we want to avoid. So think about what benefits you might be getting from your limiting belief. What is it protecting you from? Is it stopping you from leaving your comfort zone? Is it giving you an excuse not to try things? Think about feelings that you associate with those benefits, like comfort, safety, absence of fear. And then ask yourself, how would it be if I felt comfortable with discomfort? Or how would it be if I no longer feared fear? Once you tackle your limiting beliefs, nothing can hold you back truly from expressing yourself anymore. So now go back to that limiting belief again and think about all the evidence or reasons that you have that this belief, in fact, is not true about who you are. And write down all the evidence that you can think of. So for me, my limiting belief about not being smart enough, some evidence that proves that to be false would be, people tell me that I'm smart all the time. I've accomplished a lot in my life. I've received promotions at every job I've ever had since I was 16 years old. So just think about, the real evidence that proves that your limiting belief is not really true about who you are. Limiting beliefs can be a little bit like weeds. So just because, you work on it doesn't mean that it's gone forever. It's probably going to pop back up here and there. But, so it's just important. It makes it more important to work on your self-talk and notice how you talk to yourself, especially in those moments, because your limiting beliefs still creep in after we work on them. Okay. Okay, another quote that I really love says, once your thoughts reflect what you genuinely want to be, the appropriate emotions and the consequent behavior will flow automatically. Believe it and you will see it, by Wayne Dyer. So now just take a deep breath and forgive yourself and forgive others for maybe having those limiting beliefs about you. And then we're going to work on turning those limiting beliefs into empowering beliefs. So empowering or positive beliefs allow us to act resiliently, believe in ourselves, and invoke positive thoughts and emotions. Think about your limiting belief and how you could maybe change it into something positive. For example, with my own personal limiting belief about not being smart enough, I could change that to something like, I can achieve anything I put my mind to with hard work and perseverance. Or I could change it to something like, I make a difference through my creative mind. So just think about a positive spin on something that was negative. maybe, make sure the empowering belief that you change your limiting belief into is true about who you are. I am going to post some examples on here. So you can see the limiting belief, and then when it's changed into an empowering belief, what it looks like. Just going to hold it here for a second so you can see all of them. So this first this limiting belief would be, I will never be successful unless I have a master's degree. The empowering belief or positive belief would be, my success is determined by how hard I work rather than my education level. The next limiting belief is, I'm too old to do something. And to turn that into an empowering belief, you might say, my age means that I have the experience and wisdom to do anything. Okay, so once you have this new empowering belief, you want to use it often. Start to reprogram your brain in a way to replace this limiting belief with a positive, empowering one. You want to repeat it kind of like an affirmation at first. You want to say the empowering belief out loud maybe a couple times a day, write it on a Post-it note, place it on your mirror or somewhere that you can see it every day. And the more you use it, the more it will become ingrained in the way that you think about yourself. And then that way, when your limiting belief tries to creep in again, you can just stop it in its tracks and change it to your positive, empowering belief. So think again about all the things that you let the limiting belief that you wrote down earlier hold you back from in the past. And think about, what if you told yourself something positive instead of that limiting belief, where you might be today? Would you have maybe quit a miserable job a lot sooner? Would you have pursued a passion? Would you have applied to a dream job? And then, never again, right? Why would you let this belief that's not even true hold you back again or anymore? And now that you have this new empowering belief, you can use it to push past your limiting beliefs. And once you do this one time, that's one step. And then once you become comfortable with discomfort, you'll stop being quite so scared to step into the unknown. So, you push past that limiting belief once, and then you do it again, and you do it again, and then things don't seem so scary on the other side anymore. So taking that first step, pushing past the limiting belief, realizing, wow, you can actually do this, and then keep taking small steps forward until you reach your goal. And you won't know what you're truly capable of until you push past what you thought were your limits. So I'm not saying you'll never have setbacks or that expressing yourself fully will come easily to you now, but it will be easier. And you will have the knowledge and more tools to mentally push forward. So you might think that seems uncomfortable, but you know what? Insert empowering belief here. And then the more you do that, continue to stop letting your limiting beliefs hold you back from getting what you want. And then the easier it will become. And you build up more and more evidence of what you're capable of, and evidence that your limiting beliefs are not true and your empowering beliefs are true. And that's pretty much it. If you have any questions, and you haven't asked them yet, please feel free to throw them into the chat box.
Emily, we got a few questions here. And we got some time ahead of us, and we'll move some of these questions into the breakout rooms, so we can touch base on these a little deeper, but we'll just see what Emily and some other things can chime in on some of these questions. So one of the first questions is, I feel like you'll be able to relate to this pretty well, Emily, is I don't know enough, or rather that I never will be qualified enough to pursue what I want.
That's the question is, how do I?
She feels like she doesn't know enough, or she will never be qualified enough to pursue what she wants. That's her limiting self-belief.
Right.
So maybe some advice or direction or something along an affirmation that may help her kind of look into this a little deeper.
Yeah. I would just say, in a way that's really similar to my I'm not smart enough, because it's your resistance pushing back against doing more work. So, you can always learn more. There's always books to read or people to reach out to ask for help. I used to think that asking for help was a sign of weakness. I was raised that way. And now, through the personal growth work that I've done, I learned that it's such a strength to be able to ask for help. It's not a weakness at all. So, yeah, I would just say there's always something that you can do to move forward.
I'll just kind of add on to that the feeling of not knowing enough or being qualified to pursue what you want, if you know what you want, then actually that's a really good thing to know, because a lot of people don't even know what they want. And then what you can do is you can sit down with what you know that you want to do and create an outline of how to get into that place. So it has nothing to do with how you feel. It has to do with about following through with the path that you will create to get to where you want. And then the momentum that you will create in your life will help with how well you feel about yourself in the process.
Can I chime in too, Michael?
Of course.
Okay. So you have to ask yourself, when you don't feel qualified enough, what has happened in the past? Where do you have an example of when you were in work where something negative happened because you were not qualified enough? And if you cannot find an example that ever affected your work, that you didn't get a job or you couldn't do a job because you weren't qualified enough, then you basically have proof that, wait a minute, where does this come from? Because it didn't really happen. So it's almost like a phantom thought. And then you can turn this and look at the things that you have accomplished. And probably you've done a lot of schooling because you want to feel more qualified. And then look at all the certificates that you have under your belt. But seriously, maybe you can drop this in the chat. I would like to see, is there an example that you can give me that it affected your work, that you weren't qualified enough?
All right. Thank you, Beatrice. We will move on to another question here. Let's see.
Okay, just while you're searching for it. So the answer came back, the phantom thought is really resonating. Good. Okay, keep working that way. Keep thinking that way.
Awesome. Thank you, Beatrice. The phantom thought. That was a good one. Let's see. John B. had let's see. He's up here. He was after. Okay. He recently made a career decision and he regretted it more than just about anything I've ever done, he said. He said, I believed recently that I made a huge career mistake that I have regretted more than just about anything I have ever done.
I guess, like I said, like what I was saying before about mistakes is that we learn from them and we grow from them, and they're so important. So everyone makes mistakes, and people make mistakes every single day. I've made career mistakes. I'm sure there are other people on here or that are going to watch this that for sure have made career mistakes too. But all we can do is keep growing and learning from that, and hopefully making changes so that we can do the right or do something that's better next time.
Perfect. And something that came to my mind, John B., when I read that is it sounds like if you made a huge career change, then this is just an assumption on my part, but a lot of times, huge career change feel a little upside down. And that upside down feeling is like being taken out of our comfort zone, like what Emily was speaking about earlier. And sometimes when we are taken out of our comfort zone, we reach out to a belief to put something in there so we can latch onto it. So when you're in that, and when you're outside of that comfort zone, you could turn that belief into something extremely beneficial for yourself. And it would have a completely different place for you. You just have to kind of dial that in and go through those exercises that Emily put you through tonight in that space and move out the other side.
Okay, I'm going to chime in again. And by the way, Maria, if you have a thought, you can chime in too. So, because you guys have 4 certified coaches here. So I would say to this, I would have to ask more questions around that. But just even without knowing any background on this, my experience in the past is that things happen for a reason. And when you put a mark in the calendar and 12 months later, you look back at what happened, I usually end up saying, wow, that was the best thing that could have happened to me at the time. I just didn't know it.
With John B, can you guys hear me? Okay. Actually, it's interesting because if you read more in the chat, like he has come to the conclusion that it's probably not true, the belief that it's the biggest mistake for him. And because he's really stubborn and he's found some comfort in the uncomfort, that like he kind of does see what Emily is trying to say, and he has written his empowering belief. So in a way, John B has done the exercise that Emily was suggesting, which is really good. And he has kind of concluded that he says, my childhood dream job, although is over now, has launched me forward in my new life's mission in a big way. So he has found, I guess, what he was seeing as the biggest mistake ever now as like a huge advantage towards like going to his new life.
Awesome.
Should I chime in?
Go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was just wondering, I guess we'll go into the breakout rooms eventually and then I can sort of expound on all of that, huh? Or do you want me to respond now?
I'm going to go over one more question, John, and then we're going to move into the breakout rooms.
Okay.
And then
yeah,
absolutely, that's the place to expound on all
the
this
flow
stuff.
of it, so.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah, roger that. And thank you everybody for all the input.
So Karina had a comment. She said, sometimes I thought I was not good enough to do things. I think I overcome those limits. Like I do not accept some beliefs. I say to myself, I can do that. I think age does that, not being scared to try new things. That's it, Emily, if you want to comment on that. That was more just a comment from her.
Yeah, I think that's great. That's a great thing to do. You know, you don't have to use an empowering belief. You know, you can just say that's not true and I'm going to do this anyway. That work, you know, if that works for you, then that's great. I love that.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for the Q&A. We're going to move into breakout rooms, and thank you so much, Emily, for the presentation tonight. You
Michael.
got a lot of chat. You got a lot of chatter in this chat here, so you sparked a lot of things.
Good. I'm glad.
Can I just say, Elizabeth did ask if anyone has any recommended reading.
I got all my research pretty much online, just different articles and just researching. So I don't have any links right offhand right now, but I can, maybe we can get some in the email, the follow-up email, some of the links about a couple of the things that I talked about. But anyone else who might have some suggestions, please chime in.
Okay, great. We're going to switch to the breakout rooms. Michael, do you want to explain that real quick? And then we're going to wish you off.